Hey everyone, welcome back to iMEO Company's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about communication plans. And the reason that we wanted to do this video is because we've already talked about the vision, the mission, the core values, the strategy, turning that strategy into your OKRs or your KPIs, but we haven't talked about how to manage the change or how to communicate it where everybody in the organization understands the goals, understands what is changing, and understand what that means for them and how it applies. So we're going to do it in a couple different segments, but what we're going to be talking about is the first step, right? The first step is to do all those things that we've already talked about. The second step is define your key audience, right? So, for example, whenever you're rolling out a company-wide initiative or change, you want to have the entire company there, but you might tweak it a little bit to make it apply or applicable to everybody in the organization. So, for example, if your strategy is to expand your offering from OKRs to organizational development and management consulting, what might happen is you explain what is actually going to happen with that change. So right now, and I'm using iMEO as an example if you can't tell, but right now we have OKR program and we focus specifically on OKRs. But we asked ourselves, what do we need to focus on and what are the most priorities or the top objectives that we have for iMEO to continue to grow? Well, we looked at it and we said we have expertise and experience in strategy and operations. That's what we're doing with OKRs, but we've also done it above and below, right? So above is going to be vision, mission, core values, strategy. Below is going to be your operations. How do you actually execute what you said you were going to do? So let's say that the change is you're going from an OKR program to a company who supplies systems and strategies to help create structure with support. And you're going to do that by going above and below OKRs, mission, vision, core values, strategy, KPIs, OKRs, operations. So that tells us that this is what we're going to communicate to the entire company. How do we do that now? Now you want to try to identify the key message, right? So whenever you're identifying the key message, you're going to have different messages for different departments. Not that they're different in the sense of what you're delivering to them is going to be different words with different outcomes or different goals, but more so what you're going to be delivering to them is a different way that it will impact that specific department, that specific team. So let's stick with the company communication plan here for a second. The messaging here is, hey team, we are going to expand our services. Now, what that's going to look like is we're not only going to do OKRs, we're still going to do OKRs. Nothing about that is going to change. But what we're also going to do is we're going to add something above OKRs, and that's going to be your mission, vision, and core values. That's going to be a package together that we can work with companies on evaluating or developing and implementing those into their organization. Then we're going to have strategy. We're going to help companies develop or evaluate their current strategy and make it better. Then we're going to go into strategy management. So we have our OKR program, but we're also going to offer KPI help or key performance indicator help. And how do you tie those together from your strategy? And then the last thing that we're going to do is go a little bit below OKRs and go into operations, which could be your go-to-market strategy operations, your the way that you create inbound workflows, basically the way that we can help companies streamline their approach, automate their approach, and set up workflows so they can have more time to focus on what matters most in their company. Now, the other piece of the communication plan is how does that tie to our vision and mission, ironically speaking? Well, In our case, that's where we started from as we coach our clients to do themselves. Anytime that they're making a change, we want to make sure that they are looking at their vision first, and then their mission, and then their core values. So you want to relay this information to your employees. What does this mean for the company? Well, this means that we get to expand our approach to working with clients to help us get to our vision and mission faster. So if we look at it, our vision is to build a world where organizations operate effectively and treat others appropriately. We want to make the workplace better for everyone. That's our vision. Now, our mission is to improve the way employees or management, employees, and organizations interact with one another through their strategy and structure, right? So if we look at this, we are helping the company build the foundation with their vision, their mission, their core values, their strategy, their OKRs, so that they can operate more effectively. And as a result, the way that we go about it, their employees are going to be more engaged because they're going to know exactly what it is that they're working for, working towards, and why they're working. Right? So that's how you communicate it to the entire company. It's very broad, but it puts it into perspective. So that's the first 3 steps. 1, make sure that you have a vision, make sure you have a core values and strategy. Step 2, identify your key audiences. So we talked about the entire company. Step 3, identify your key message. So we talked about that, but let's talk about it now in the sense of a specific department. Let's use marketing for this example because it's the easiest, where you can actually see how changing your strategy actually impacts what the marketing team is going to do and how you need to communicate that. So whenever we're talking about this from a marketing perspective, what does that look like? Okay, Zach, you've said that we are changing from XYZ to ABC. Now, typically for us in the marketing team, that means that we have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 right? So the way that you relay this information to the marketing team is to communicate before they ask the questions. So you want to answer the questions before they actually ask them. Meaning, if you know your department team, if you know marketing, for this example, then you know that these specific, and work with the leader too. Work with the CMO, work with the VP of marketing, whoever's the head honcho over there. Work with them and prepare those set of questions that they're going to ask. And then that way, whenever you deliver that specific message to them, they're on point with it. So for example, I know earlier in our all hands call, we talked about our expansion of services. We call them the ecosystem of services, the EOS, and we are going to include A, B, C, D, E, F. Now, you probably have questions about what does this mean for you specifically and your department. I want to talk about this from the marketing level right now. What that means is that we're going to have to come up with new messaging that ties in everything in our ecosystem instead of just OKRs. We're going to have to work on our welcome and nurturing campaign to update that to go beyond OKRs. We're going to need to look at the website, understand what that looks like and what needs to be changed. And we might have to restructure a little bit in terms of, if you're an OKR coach, how can you become an ecosystem of services for iMEO coach? So these are the things that we're going to have to think about. And I'm here to help. So that's a way to communicate. Then you want to bring in the marketing CMO or the VP of marketing, again, whoever the head honcho is over there. And so you do that for each department. Finance, what does this mean? Well, it means that we're going to have new line items based off of the packages that we sell Some are going to be project based, some are going to be revenue share, some are going to be SaaS, whatever the case is, right? You're communicating this to your entire company in one format, and then to your departments on how it will affect them specifically. And again, bring in that head honcho. I keep saying that. I don't like that word, but bring in the head honcho to communicate to them alongside of you as the owner. Okay. Now, the step further after doing this for the entire company, after delivering it to the specific departments, you want to build a plan. And so, well, typically you have this done before you start communicating it, but you have a plan, and that plan goes into kind of a structure. I'll put a link in the description that explains this, but you basically want to have communication goals. What is the goal whenever we're communicating this? You want to have the communication method. How are we going to deliver this? You want to understand the audience, determine the frequency of how often you're going to reiterate this. And I can go ahead and tell you that most people don't communicate this enough. So there's a quote out there by Patrick Lencioni. I know I've said it several times, but whenever it comes to communication and you being the owner, you also become the CRO, Chief Repeating Officer. And what that means is that any change, anything that is trying to become driven into the culture of the company to adapt behaviors, to get buy-in, you have to repeat it. And when you think or you get tired of repeating it, a good way to measure this is to say, when you get tired of repeating this message, you're halfway there, right? People need to hear something over and over and over and over again from multiple people within the organization for them to take it seriously. Especially if you're a company that has constantly changed throughout the years. You need to make sure that you have a communications plan and you deliver it over and over and over again until they realize, oh, this is different. This is something that I should take seriously. Okay, so that's the frequency. But that is the structure of the plan. Now, whenever it comes to having an actual plan for the company on how to see if this communication is actually working, that's where you're going to put into play some type of way to track it. It doesn't have to be anything amazing or grandiose or a tool that is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could be an Excel sheet. It could be a Google sheet. Something that you can track to make sure, for example, this is just something that I'm throwing out there. As the CEO of a company, whenever you're communicating it, let's say that you want to communicate this message twice a day for 6 months. That sounds like a lot, but just bear with me. Twice a day for 6 months. So I won't do the math because I'll get it wrong. But let's say that you create something in Excel as the CEO, and the CEO will track it, where it says, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it has 2 check marks or a 0 to 1 status. And you put in there, okay, I communicated it once, I communicated it twice, and that's how you track it. That's just an example. Whenever it comes to marketing, for the example that we use, what you want to do is, okay, if we need to update the website, first we need to improve our messaging or update or reinvent our messaging. Okay, boom, we got that. Okay, now that we have our messaging, now we got to look at the layout of the website. What needs to be on there that isn't there? What needs to be changed that is there? Okay, boom, boom, boom. We've done that. How do we have this promotion running out to the world? Okay, we have our Google ads. These are the specific campaigns that we're going to create. This is how we're going to acknowledge it. We're going to get our CEO on some podcasts. We're going to get him on the events for SaaStr or whatever the case is. But this is everything that goes into a communication plan. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this today is because most companies get it wrong. They'll stop there. So develop that plan. Then you want to have those materials that come along with it. I group those together. Some people will separate those, but you have your plan and then you build the materials. And then one of the most important things is, what is the timeline that we want to have all these things accomplished, right? So just to backtrack here, the first one is to understand your goals as a company, which is your vision, mission, strategy, core values. Once you have that, define your key audience, identify the key messaging for the company, for the specific department, create a plan, develop the materials and track them, have a specific timeline for when you want the entire company to have transition to this new change, and then maybe even go deeper and have each department. When should marketing be done with the website change? When should marketing have XYZ completed? When should finance have our line items complete? Those types of things that you want to make sure you're tracking and have a specific timeline on. Now, whenever you have that plan, you have the materials and the timeline. After you meet that timeline, you can do a post study or a post-mortem, whatever you want to call it in your organization, but you're basically communicating the research. And you can only communicate the research of the results when you have that plan, right? Most companies, as I mentioned before, they'll stop at number 3. So they'll have their vision, mission, core value, strategy. They'll define the audience, and then they'll deliver the message. But that's it. That's it. That's not communication. That's just saying something and hoping that it sticks. And we know that it doesn't. One of my favorite quotes about communication is, the biggest problem with communication is assuming that it happened. Think about that for a moment. That's how most organizations operate. We want to help you avoid that. That's why we did this video. We hope that you enjoyed this video. We hope that it's some takeaways that you can apply immediately into your organization. But if you need help with this, any type of service that we offer, we also offer the development of a communications plan. So if you need help with this, reach out to us today at info@imeoconsulting.com. That's info@imeoconsulting.com. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know if it helped you in the comments, or let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.